태국에서 지금 서울에 수원인가에 태국 스님이 파견돼서 나와 계시면서 이제 포교당이 하나 있거든요. 그래서 이제 태국 근로자 그다음에 주재원들 또는 이런 분들이 한국 분들과 결혼해서 들어와서 사시는 분들 이런 분들이 태국의 자기 신앙 공동체를 갖다 그렇게 이제 잃지 않기 위해서 그렇게 노력을 해요. 그래서 이제 그분들이 스님이 들어오시면서 사리를 모시고 오셨는데 이제 여기에 또 부처님이 태국 부처님이 모셔져 계시고 태국 부미폰 왕께서 그때 세계 불교대회 때 마지막으로 전 세계에다가 불상 공양을 하신 것이 지금 저 부처님이거든요. 21번째예요. 그래서 그때 여러분도 다 모실 때 같이 21번째 다 했잖아. 그렇게 이제 하고 오늘 이제 사리를 갖다 그래서 모시고 자기네들 아까 저기서 이제 스님에게 인사드리고 또 자기네들 항상 그네들은 남방이나 북방이나 할 것 없이 스님들께 공양하는 것을 갖다 굉장히 중요한 의식 절차로 삼고 있고 그래서 이제 스님들 공양하고 하는 의식을 자기네들이 하겠다고 그래서 이제 왔어요. 그죠? 사리 모시는 것을 이제 이렇게 이게 잠깐 모시고 그 다음에 자기네들 어떻게 할지는 잘 모르겠고 그렇게 하겠다고 해서 그렇게 하라 그랬어요. 그래서 여수도 우리가 이제 그냥 좀 우리 이기적인 생각으로 이렇게 앉았으면 그냥 뭐 뇌절 내지키고 앉았으면 그만이지 그렇지만 여수에 외국인 노동자도 많이 들어와 있고 주로 이제 필리핀은 불교가 아니지만 또 이제 네팔, 뭐 스리랑카 이런 데 많이 들어와 있거든요. 들어와 있어서 그분들이 와서 이제 기독교는 아예 그냥 대놓고 반강제 비슷하게 막 개종을 하고 난리라고요. 근데 이제 여기에 법당이라도 이렇게 좀 시내에다 마련해서 이제 한국절에서 오히려 그쪽 스님들을 한번 파견해 달라고 요청해서 그분들이 여기 한국에 와서 신앙생활을 잃지 않고 살다가 갈 수 있게끔 그렇게 좀 만들어줬으면 좋겠다라고 생각을 하는데 그게 내가 너무 이제 이 일 저 일을 맨날 그래가지고 너무 많아가지고 내가 어떻게 할 수 있는 여력이 안 돼. 여력도 안 되고 그래서 그냥 지금 생각만 그렇게 보고 넘어가고 있는데 참 어려워요. 그래서 이게 여수도 뭐 외국인 노동자가 몇천 명이 넘고 또 다문화 가정도 많고 그래서 그네들이 고유한 자기네들 종교를 갖다 잃지 않고 한국에 살다가 또 대부분 근로자들은 한국에 살다가 또 들어가시거든. 그분들 이렇게 이렇게 우리가 잘 해주면 도와주면 좋겠는데 그게 참 잘 안 되더라고요. 그래서 이제 우리가 뭐 여력이 있으면 공간을 하나 지어서 이를테면 좀 한 3, 4층 정도 이게 지어서 한식 이를테면 뭐 네팔 법당 또는 스리랑카 법당 또는 타일랜드 법당 뭐 이렇게 법당을 한 칸씩 줘서 자기네들이 운영할 수 있게끔 만들어줘도 괜찮겠다 이제 그 생각도. 그런데 그 빌딩을 누가 짓노? 그래서 이제 내가 뭐 다른 것을 많이 안 하면 그까짓 거면 그것도 또 한 1, 2년이면 하겠는데 다른 것이 워낙 많이 앞에 체계가 있어가지고 하기가 쉽지가 않아.
Since you are coming with the relics, please come through the
사리를 모시고 들어오니까 이거 앞문으로 들어오시오. 오케이. 가면.
please stand up.
일어서시.
잠깐만요. 사진 좀. 가장 탑, 가장.
If this was in Korean, I could understand, but I don't understand at all. This is relic of Buddha's disciple. I don't know the name well, but it is his disciple, and the name is quite long, so I am not able to memorize. Read as much as you can. I will try to remember. Well, Pasali Rikata means relics in Thai. Well, it is not disciples, but it is a relic of Buddha. This is a present to this monastery, and they're not going to take this back. This is Buddha's relics, which are in 5 kinds. You can come and offer in person. Where's Nampon? So you after this you're going to have your own ceremony, right? Okay. You have to wait long until the candle melts. It's okay now. Please ask the monk to sit here and to pay greetings to our followers here. Now the three of them will pay their greetings. Is there a pianist here? Look at the mug, and we are going to offer the triple refuges. We are really grateful. If you wait until the picture will be taken after his lunch, after our teaching it becomes after 12, and and after 12 he cannot eat. So, and also they have their own way of offering to the monk. Well, I eat 3 meals a day like a pig, but they eat only 1 meal a day. Please take your seats. Well, I think it's necessary to have the relics tomb. The relic that Dalai Lama has given us, and also from Thailand, this relics tomb. Well, I think he is very influential in Thailand and also in Korea. In order to make sure that all Thai people do not lose their respect to Buddhism, he also plays a great role here. And also, when we had the World Buddhist Fellowship here, the Thai Buddha statue that the king gave us or offered, on the head you can see, well, it occurs to me now that there are many things that which reside only in our hearts, and so if he once tried to make it into a speech, it's not easy. But all these foreign workers, we have a lot of workers like that in Korea, and even in future we have more of them. But I don't think it's necessary for them to follow Korean Buddhism. But it would be great if we can help them to respect or follow what they have been following. So maybe in the downtown, about 3 stories building, if there is something, then we can make the one floor for Thai, the other floor for, well, then all Thai people all over Korea, they also have some time, just like our Lunar New Year, they gather, so they can come and stay for a short time and leave. If that happens, then I think it will be great. I had the thought before, but it only remained as a thought. Well, it's very difficult for all thoughts to come to reality. That comes to reality only if you have. Well, it's just like the. Well, it's just like the gem, which is also in the in the mouth of the dragon, and also the stick of the Sonogon, and which he could reduce and also make it bigger or heavier or in whichever he is. So the word yoi, it means as you wish. So but if you raise the thoughts and if you have a good willingness or good thoughts, then after the thought, your virtues should be supportive. But it's just like if in a well, if the well doesn't have so much water, and if you're trying to take out all the water, and then there'll be other muddy things, right? So, well, with my experience, I have come to realize that it is all workers. Well, don't you think I have read my own fortune? Well, I have. I have seen my fortune, my too. So and it, in whichever direction that I see, I was destined to become a monk. And if I hadn't become a monk, then I would have died before 40. But I know now that I will not die because I become so weak. But then, I heard that nowadays, if they call you from the death before you become 80, you fear it's hurting your self-esteem. So if you're about 100, then you think about choosing a good date and the time and pass away. The virtues for Buddha, his virtues are as how he wants it. Sugata was the one who believed in Buddha from his previous life, and even his belief was so strong, and he was also very virtuous and very lucky. And so, if he goes to that country, a lot of disciples would follow. And well, even that thing he didn't say not to worry, but both of them knew that that will happen. So, with all his life savings, where if it was me, but it seems like in his own country, he was almost like Igoni for us. And he used all his life savings to build what he has built. But the rent was too expensive. He even had to ask money from two of his friends for money. Well, and it's not like 1 million or two, but they borrowed about like 10 to 20 millions. So well, because he's also someone like that, he also had friends who could lend such money. You too, you should also try to build a temple. But then if you are swayed too much, then all your virtues will run away because they are shaken. It's just like a leaf that's falling from a tree. Before there was a hurricane, and when I went to the field, all the sweet potatoes leaf disappeared. That was also because of the wind. Well, there was a year like that before, and so if you are shaken, if you fidget too much, then the luck would also disappear. And even your pocket, if it's too shallow, then the money would also you not know when the money has run away. You understood? Listen to your mother carefully, and you should not be too naughty. Well, because you're very energetic, you hit pillars, or you kick trees once in a while, right? It's a time when you feel very energetic, and you also hit friends, and even friends, they are of the similar age, so, and they also have the male hormones, so even if they're hit, it doesn't hurt them too much. So if you age, then if you're hit somewhere, it hurts a lot. But kids about 19 to 20, well, even if they're very skilled, they are not able to win over young people who are about 19 to 20 years old, because they are very energetic. So you should also have the inherent virtues, and Buddha had a lot of them. Well, but for someone like us, how much of it would we have? But
그래서 이제 조금 그런 게 이제 골골 회사도 그래도 뭐
even if we are very unlucky, I think we could also live up to the time when about 80 to 90. Well, I know that I am lucky in one way. I'm very lucky. Do you know which luck I'm talking about? Well, when I see myself living in Sakchon Monastery, I am very sure that I'm lucky in water. The water here is even better than Evian. Oh, I think you're very foolish, because if you take water from this temple, no one is asking money from you. You're coming in cars, so you can just take water. I even thought about it. Oh, maybe I could build a freshwater factory, and maybe we could get some water bottle, and if you bring it back after a week, then maybe I can also give new water after washing the bottles. Well, if you drink tea with this water, even the tea tastes even better. Well, I didn't do any advertisement. The people who took the water from here, they came and said, well, the grandfather who lives down our temple, he bathed his grandchild with this water, so and the skin disease disappeared. Well, it's not my saying, but I tell people that this is very good water, but people don't take them. There are only about 3 of them. Well, this water makes food taste better. Even if I tell people to take the water, they don't take it. Well, if I ask people to take it, carry by hand, then it's quite heavy. But everyone is driving in cars, so maybe they can take 1 to 2 bottles and put it in the fridge, and they can also drink this water. I think I'm quite lucky with waters. And when I think of it, maybe even in previous life, it seems like I have offered a lot of tea, even to people. One of my joy is offering tea, and it's one of my great happiness. But even if there isn't other things, well, as for our believers, if they don't come, I feel very comfortable, so it makes me happy. But if there is no tea, then I feel quite bad about it. If there's no tea, then I feel quite empty, and I feel I have become poor. Others, I don't feel I have become poor, and even if I don't have other things, I don't think I am a poor person. But then if I don't have tea, then I think I'm quite poor. And also if I go somewhere and if the water is dirty, then I think it's a great problem. Well, it's just a saying, but it's not actually true. Well, don't think you're less than tea. Well, quite a lot of time is passed. Let's start with our teaching. We are starting with the Samatha and Vipassana in Songgang Monastery. There is Samadhi and also Vipassana. It's the same thing. Samadhi, Vipassana, and also. Well, but it's like a wordplay. You practice two of them together. Since we say you practice two of them together, it seems like there are two, but they are not actually two things. But if there is no samatha, then you cannot practice vipassana. And if there is no vipassana, it also means even the samatha has not been practiced. So two of them are actually the same. Well, we say two of them like each other. So only if samatha is practiced, you can practice vipassana. Well, without samatha, without cultivation of samatha, if you practice vipassana, then vipassana just becomes a mere thought. It becomes a knowledge. And so we say samatha and vipassana should be cultivated together. But it's a lie to say after samatha you gain enlightenment. With samatha you can cultivate concentration to a certain level, and at the concentration with one thought. Without much distraction, if you observe this well, that everything is void, everything is vital, and everything comes and goes with the relations. And if you double check that, we call that vipassana. And because of that, we say two of them, they coexist and they help each other. And so, if we say only samatha is cultivated and if the vipassana is not cultivated, then texts like Lamlim and also many of the sastras of Mahayana, only if samatha is practiced and vipassana is not practiced, we say the person is facing delusions. But if vipassana is cultivated, but samatha is not cultivated, then it's just a thought, it's a knowledge. Two of them, they should always be cultivated together. But if you check the sequence, then samatha should be cultivated first, then only vipassana can be cultivated. Although we say that when we look at the consequence, you need to. Well, although I have not attained the level, you need to have a clear and crystal clear understanding. And because of that, if you have the proper perception, then after that it becomes samatha, and then after that there is vipassana. It's important. This order, this sequence, you should always remember by heart. This applies the same to all others. So, but if you don't have a proper understanding of this, but if you think it's okay if you just practice samatha, or if you have the concentration, that's okay. That's not okay. So we say two of them are practiced or cultivated together. Samatha and Vipassana should be practiced together. Well, there could be wordplay in this. It's not because you should not think that there are two, but at the state when you have cultivated samatha, you reflect the state when you are in the samatha. Well, to say if the mirror has been mirror is very then you understand that it can reflect well. Well, do you understand well? My friends, you all understand well. So, but if the mirror is not flat, if the mirror is not clear, then even the reflection is not clear. Just like that. When we say the mirror is clear and also the reflection is clear, two of them, they mean the same, but it doesn't mean they're two. Because when we say you are cultivating vipassana, it's almost like it's a reflection. Isn't it clear? So two of them should be practiced together. But first, you have to practice samatha, and it's important. Well, even for you, practicing sitting down, sitting still is a practice itself. Well, if you sit and if you wonder when will I finish, well, it seems like I don't even understand what I am saying. Isn't that so? Do you think you can understand, or do you think you don't understand? Or are you sleepy? Well, your eyes, they look similar even if you're sleepy or even if you're not sleepy. Where if you say you're not sleepy at your age, that's quite weird. It's right to be sleepy. It's right to be sleepy, but then at times like this, you should try to open your eyes in order not to fall asleep. Do you know what we have done? Well, we used to open our eyes with leaves. And then we would watch books. We would read books because our eyes were closing. Do you want me to give you those leaves? Well, this child is really nice. Well, it's not easy thing to follow mother to the monastery and sit. Well, children try not to come. They say, well, I am busy. I'm busy. Why don't you go and come alone? Well, you're not busy. You're just playing game. Well, it's quite weird. You don't fall asleep when you're playing game, isn't it? Well, it's very weird that you fall asleep. You feel sleepy when you are studying. When you are playing game or when you are playing, you don't feel sleepy. That's quite weird. But even studying, if it's interesting, you don't fall asleep. But, well, even the people who study very well, well, those people who score perfect to enter Seoul University, when you see their interviews, the other children, it's quite shocking. They say, I slept about 6 to 8 hours. And they have also done their practices well and ate all the meals they could. And most of those children, they didn't go to tuition centers. And when you ask, how did you study? For them, the study is interesting. And when they study, they pay their utmost concentration. And for 1 hour, they do pay their utmost concentration and they study. And that's the concentration required for samatha. Do you do like that when you're studying? Well, when you're studying maths, you feel more sleepy, isn't it? Are you sleepy when you're studying maths or when you're studying Korean or both? You feel sleepy when you're studying all subjects. Where that's not a simple problem. Just like that, when we do a samatha, we feel sleepy because we lived our life all the time in agony. People's habit itself, it's interesting. Those things which causes us or raise agony, they're not sleepy. But the problem is it's hurting us. But then it's also interesting. Where someone told me, well, I had my surgery for my leg, and I'm not able to do what I used to do before. And when I asked what is that, he said, when I was gambling before, I could sit for 3 days. I did not even have to sleep, but I could sit and play. I could gamble for 3 days. I didn't do anything other than going to bathroom, and that too, I tried to go less by drinking less water. For 3 days, the person did gambling. Well, if we did our samatha like that, we would already be on newspaper. And so, but that person said, nowadays, when I try to sit and do something, the person cannot sit anymore. Samatha and Vipassana, if two of them are practiced in equally, that's a state when it does not put pressure to body and mind. So when you are entering into samatha just like mirror. It's just like a side of the mirror. And you're cleaning the side of the mirror, and the more it's clean, the reflection is more clear. You can see in more detail. How do you know it? It's not that you know it by knowledge, but you're able to see the true form which is existing. That everything changes. That there's nothing that doesn't change. Well, yesterday there were 3 visitors. All 3 people, they were better looking than Seokjeon's believers. They visited me. They came to me, and without even prior notice, they came. And I could feel. I had a feeling. Because I have been in contact with people a lot of time, I know that they come to preach Christianity, and they pretend that they are not missionaries. That they talk about peace. They said they talk about peace. And when they went for a seminar in Seoul, but then the sayings of the priest, they named it as a seminar, and your aim is to achieve peace, and our young children in wars, and where that sayings, they are the sayings which are not even at the verge of knowledge or common sense. And so when I asked what is peace, the answer was not having wars, no wars, and it's great that there's no war. But then I asked, don't you have arguments in couples in your family? And they were not ever to answer to me that who starts the, but, and they tried to avoid the answer. I told that I told them if the priest can give up the God, then I'm willing to talk to them. Well, they did witch hunting for about 8 million people, and even with that, they are not able to convey the message. In order to achieve peace, you need to have the background, not even only in the situational circumstances, but also you should have a proper background. Even Bush and even the murderers, IS, they call under the name peace, and even the Israelis, they also have peace in their forefront. What kind of peace is it? And the answer was all the religion as one. That doesn't mean we have to kneel in front of the God. Well, they were not able to answer. They were like, isn't everything one? And so when I asked, are you and me the one person? And they could not answer. If they're not able to answer that, how are we going to become one? Well, even the saying one is a force, even in perception. Everything has a common thing, but everything also has its own differences. It's accepting that. So with such sayings, they would come and they were talking to me, but then you should prepare more and come to me. You have to study Buddhism and come to me for a debate. Such a logic doesn't have its supporting ideas. So I told them to come to me after they study more. So they did not say it's a missionary, but they did not say it's a preaching. Well, even those people who does their missionary work, they go to Arab countries and they do their preaching. But then in those Arab countries, they also have honorable mother, who are killed by their families. But then for them, they go to the other countries, for Arab countries, to do their missionary work. Where such a shallow thing, with those very shallow things, they come with a lot of pride. And they tell me that please come for the seminar and listen to it once. But then I told them that if you come to my seminars, if I ask you 1 or 2 questions, I told them that you will not be able to answer and they'll be vomiting blood. Well, at a place where a lot of people has gathered, if they want to have a debate with me, then I'm willing to come there. Where their ideas, they were not even they were not even making sense, and even those they are not even prepared, and they come as if they are not missionary people, and they pretend. Well, I don't know if that will happen or not, but I think it's going to happen. Where in this world, even if someone comes to me with who believes in any religion, comes to me and have a debate with me, it will not be more than 5 minutes. So if the vipassana and samatha is practiced equally, then there will be no pressure for body and mind. Here, the pressure, there will be no disturbances in body and mind. If you're samatha and vipassana, while practicing, you realize that this is very futile. Well, there's no other way for the greediness to leave us sooner. Well, with this virtue of pouring water, I hope you're not born in a desert in all your life. Well, I have this life and even next life, place born in a place where there is a good water in all your next lives with only this glass of water. Therefore, remaining without practicing, here it means there is no artificial control. What is artificial control here? We there is no leading with the desire. So if you are able to practice samatha and vipassana together with the samatha and also vipassana, well, the vipassana, as I explained to you, it is a vipassana of voidness. Everything is void. And if you study that, and the moment you realize that there is no form, or there's no reality, then your greediness will disappear. Well, it's a great saying. There will be no attachment, but as with the relations, it has come to you, and they will also disappear. And if you study that hard, then you realize that there is no being in this world in which you need to have your attachment. So there is no artificial control over it. And as I said, if you are about 7 to 8 state of bodhisattva, then things happen automatically. Avalokitesvara, Avalokitesvara, Avalokitesvara. Whether you are walking, or whether you're sleeping, or whether you are just doing something else, aren't you ever to do it like that? With your eyes, I can see that you are about that level. When you have that kind of concentration, then you automatically gain speed. So don't say that you are reciting mantra rather than just playing or doing something else, but because your mind is so distracted, well, we have given our concentration to our Avalokitesvara, and if we have started our concentration, then you have to make it into one. Well, don't say things like you have gained enlightenment or things like something else. But if you have concentration, where the enlightenment comes from your concentration. If you realize that things are void and it's futile, if you realize that, then just like an empty bowl with no bottom, it will just come to you. Just like the bowls or utensils without the bottom, it will come to you. If your body feels uncomfortable, then think of all the things as haze or delusions or reflection of moon in the water, or just like a dream, and continue with your concentration. If you have complexity with your agnis, well, think that it's like a dream. It's like a delusion. In Diamond Sutra, just like a Dharma Sutra, think that it's just like a dream in our life. But even living with Dongjun is just like a dream, isn't it? where someone said before, well, that was a useless saying. The nihilists, they said that the first happiness is not being born in this world, and the second happiness is dying in the stomach, and the third happiness is dying before we know the reality, and the fourth happiness is dying before we have a family, and the fifth happiness is dying before we are being beaten to death by our wife. And the sixth happiness is dying before you are sick. And the most unlucky person is dying as they age. Well, the saying seems quite right. And with that, we could also write song 아리랑. The most happy thing in this life is not being born in this life. That's ending samsara. That may be the most happiest thing. But in this spring, when there's sunlight, then when the weather becomes warm, then we have things like a haze. And no matter how much we try to see the true form of haze, if we open our eyes bigger, then we are not able to see. We are able to see it if we close our eyes. If we try to close our eyes little, it is something that if we try to catch, we cannot catch it. Just like that, it's very futile. Where before, when I was coming down from Kubong Mountain, there was a very old grave. And when I saw the tomb, it was written like it was a grave of someone who died 300 years back. Or even if nowadays there will be no bone inside, but you live your life in a vein, and you left this world. You have lived your life religiously in a very hard way, but there is also no bone left. Just like a dream, it's just like a moon reflected on water. The moon, which is reflected on water, I don't know if the saying of a person who died when the person jumped into water to save the moon is true or not, but the person have died like that. It's just like a moon that's reflected on water. If we make an observation like that, then there's nothing there is more futile like that. It's just like a dew at the tip of the grass. Well, if you go to get grass in the morning to feed cows, all your clothes get wet. But then about 10 o'clock, when there is sun, then all the dews they disappear. But then that's because if there is a wind, if it's become windy, then all the dews they fall off. It's just like a dew at the tip of the grass. You feel that there is something, but there isn't anything. You have to think it like that. Our mundane mankind, we are not able to understand perfectly such detailed teaching laws, and so we are always suffering agony each time we go through our samsara. therefore, as much as I can in this aspect of I can, I will try to understand the Dharma nature. You have to think it like this, and you have to try to build up the great compassion and also the sense of bodhicitta.
보이지도 않은 것에 집착하고 관념에 집착하고 그랬어.
So all sentient beings,
그러니까 모든 중생들이
were with the things that would just disappear, just like a shade. People fight and they cry over things like things of the sort, and they continue to do that. So, but if you make a deep observation like that, then they would disappear. Where they are the things that's even less than anything. But then think of it, they are dying after continuing such things. Imagine how futile that is. Even our body. That's why in Pranya Paramita he has spoken that even this body of ours, it doesn't have its form. Not to mention about other things. You tend to believe that apart from other things, I have true form, but then we don't have our true forms too. The Dharma itself, in Dharma, the property of all the things that exist, you realize that they are all very futile. So therefore, I should cultivate the sense of bodhicitta, and I will lead all sentient beings to the road, to the path of Buddha. And because of that, I want to gain enlightenment. And with that thought, that kind of thought we have to cultivate. And after resting a while, and just like above method, you have to enter into the samadhi, which doesn't manifest all the teachings. Well, and at schools, we need to have. Oh well, at the gambling, you need to have kwang. Well, what's the score for that? What's the score for it? 3 scores? With the 3 score, can you say stop? The stopping is okay, and on top of that, if you say go, then how many scores do you get? Well, later, maybe we should try to have a seminar after having a gambler here. Well, that means it's a samadhi. It's a samadhi that you know that there is no form for any beings. And after that, if you hate it, or if you feel bored, if you feel bad about it, then you have to take rest for a while. Well, before, when I came to Sakcha Monastery for the first time, they don't even have the Buddhist teachings. They don't normally come. But then when we say there is a teaching in the night, they come religiously at the night, and they prostrate very hard, and they fall asleep in the morning. And if you do that couple of times, then there will be no one who wants to come here, because you fall asleep, you feel sleepy, and you're tired, and your legs are hurting. Then why do you do that? So that even studying, even you making your children study, they don't want to do it because you make them do it until they hate it so much. And that's why when they see books, it causes them headache. It's the same for you. Well, but the mothers, to their children, they say they you should study, and they will sit in the living room and they will rest, and they will bring milk, they will bring fruits, and they will also track the child. And also because child they have headaches because they're when they go to school. The teachers are chasing after them, and at the tuition center, the academic teachers are chasing them. So they don't even want to do it because it's not interesting for them. Well, even the practice, if you just do it blindly, then it will be not long after that you will have accidents. This, you have to do it continuously as per your potential. You have to do it step by step. You have to go step by step. Well, one of the believers, she didn't come to the temple for about 3 years. When I asked why she didn't come, she said, I did prostration a day. I did 1,000, and for 2 months I wanted to do it for 1,000 days, and after 2 months I gave up. And while you do that, the kind of thoughts that occurs to you is that since you're not able to keep promise yourself with myself, you feel ashamed, and you feel yourself as like a person who has misophonia, and since she didn't come, after a while she couldn't come any longer, and so that's why you should not do it until you feel dizzy. And also, there are not many times that you have done it until you feel dizzy, isn't it? Well, I mean, the essence here is to do it continuously. And if you detest it a lot, then you have to rest a little. Take a little rest and continue again. After taking some rest, you should also encourage yourself. But then, if you continue to do it even when you hate it or even when you don't want it, then it will only result with bad results. This is a way to enter into the samadhi, samatha and vipassana, and also it is a way to see the discrimination and also the indiscrimination. Likewise, samatha is cultivated and vipassana is also cultivated, and you'll be entering again and again continuously. And if you enter that with the discrimination, you enter into indiscrimination. But for us, it doesn't work out because we ask you to do indiscrimination from the beginning. But then you need to have both of them. Well, I emphasize all the time. Having the right perception in the sutras, we call that the sense of discrimination. So you need to have the sense of discrimination, and after that you need to have the indiscrimination, the borderline where the agony disappears. And if those things doesn't become the basis for your studies, but the things you learn in Korea, that like if you learn this, you can achieve this, and if you recite the light mantra, then your growth doesn't get cultivated if you do those kinds of things. Don't do things that doesn't have the proper basis, the road opens. The road opens for you to get rid of your acne, and only if you do this, then there'll be a circumstances for you to get rid of your acne. Do you understand? Well, in Buddhism, they don't interfere with any things other than getting rid of your acne. Buddhism has never done things never done things other than cutting down your greediness, even if it's flying over space. Well, like when I went to Sopema, I heard that Padmasambhava took a step from one end to the other, and there's also the footstep there. And I was told that he jumped to the other mountain. Well, it seemed like walking to the other side. What is the use of jumping like that? So it means we do not desire or aspire something like that. Suffering comes from acne. So the main thing is getting rid of the acne. It's not things like flying in space or knowing everything. They are not the kind of things that we desire. Likewise, a yoga practitioner. Well, the yoga practitioner here refers as just a practitioner. Likewise, such a practice method, you have to do it like in this order, like an hour or the half of the night practice, or one practice a day, or you have to sit and practice the trueness as much as you want, and this. Well, it's very good to practice samatha in the night. Well, nowadays there are cars even in the day and night, but in olden times we did not even have electricity. So if you switch off the candle, then it's even easier for us to study. And there are also no people, so it is also good to practice that in the night. This is samadhi of discriminating indiscrimination. It's mentioned in the Lankavatara Sutra. After following such steps, you can practice the samadhi as explained earlier. Likewise, you can practice with the samatha, you can practice the vipassana all together simultaneously. And when both samatha and vipassana is cultivated, then you should not try too hard to practice. So if you practice samatha, if you have practiced samatha before and if you are trying to practice cultivate vipassana, that's different. But then if you are trying to cultivate both samatha and vipassana together, if you're studying the voidness after you are awakened from the samatha and enter into vipassana, well, if you're practicing like that, and if you're trying too hard while practicing such things, then if the vipassana overworks, if the vipassana is overworking, well, if your samatha is weak and if you practice vipassana too hard, then you could have problem with your nervous system, and Yurgogi had this problem. So well, it's almost like a tree with a poor root and a strong stem. And that's not okay. So when you're practicing it, also if your samatha is strong and if your vipassana is weak, then the thoughts would become lesser, and even the good thoughts would disappear. So it's very important to control the two of them. you have to try to sustain the balance naturally, and especially you have to try to control your body, take care of your body. You feel that your body is okay, but that is not true. It's also important to see if your body is uplifting your efforts. So even in your inherent virtue, it's very important to practice the healthiness too. You also have to. It's also important to protect our body with something, with things that is not too warm and that is also not too cold. Some people also think that it's a practice to. A practice should be done in a cold cave, and they don't even wear very warm clothes. But a person like Milarepa, his energy has already been passed throughout. So even when he was living at 5,000 meters above sea level, he would just wear a sack. And even the clothes he was wearing because other people were visiting him. And even if when he was living in snow-capped mountain, he didn't wear any clothes. But normal people, we have to wear our clothes or else we would freeze to die. Well, it's also not necessary for us to rely or have attachment for clothes, but it's important to have clothes up to some level. If you have tiredness while you practice, then try to lessen your pressure a little. Well, when you practice samatha, we feel very tired. And even when you're tired, if you are just sitting down and if you're trying to practice too hard, then you feel sleepy. So loosen your lotus position and look at the object. And if you see a good luxurious but then, if you see a good luxurious car driving by, you should not think that that's a good car. Then your heart will just follow. Now, what kind of thought do you need to have? Even if there's a car passing by, good car passing by, just think that, oh, well, if you disassemble that, there's just some metal. You fear that it's benefiting others, but also in other side, it also affects our environment and also many other people. So you should not let go, and so you should not let it become greediness in your mind. And also when you're taking a walk, now because there are so many things that disturbs or attracts our attention. So even when you are walking by through vipassana, when you are seeing some object or when you are hearing something, the things that you see and hear, study the voidness and also study how futile that is. And well, if you don't do that, and the samatha practice, if you let go of your samatha practice, it follows, and it takes really long for it to come back. Also, you could also think of the compassion for all sentient beings who are tied by the ties of the samsara. Many sentient beings, they don't even know that they are there is suffering in this world, but they are just dragged around here and there. And so you should study the compassion for others, and if you practice a little, then even when you're practicing samatha, your heart would even get deeper. Likewise, with the kind mind, it's very important to cultivate the motivation to help all other sentient beings. So even when you are doing virtuous things or whichever acts we are doing, the motivation for the compassion, motivation to help other sentient beings should be there. So after taking a little rest, you have to enter into a samatha, samadhi without the sense of I. What is that? If you feel that there is something that exists, you feel that there is a light emitting. But if you feel that everything comes and goes with the relations and everything is void, then you realize that everything's futile. That also means you have to do the practice. You have to do the practice of voidness. So also understanding that nothing in this world has its true form, and if you study that, then our heart, which has been following to that direction, would also stop. So if your practice for the voidness deepens, then you no longer have the mind that's emitting, just like in our ascension, in our mundane world, also just like a light. Well, what is it like when you take an X-ray? The X-ray penetrates our body, and it only has a shade which, if it hits things in our body, but in reality, if we have deep thoughts about the voidness, if you say that everything has come as per the relations and it disappears, then whichever object that you see, then you will see like a delusion. You see things just like it's like a picture from the X-ray, where when we look at it, it's like because you believe that there is something. You feel that after wearing a heavy makeup, when you see yourself, you see light. With the heavy makeup, and if you say, "Oh, you are pretty," well, that's the work of makeup, but it doesn't mean you are pretty. So. What kind of light can be there from a shade? So it's a samadhi without the light. So you should be able to cultivate that. And if you are able to do that, then the attachment would not arise. You have no misunderstandings. But it's very easy for us to have a misunderstanding. Are you going to get married? You're not sure yet? Even after you get married, think that my wife doesn't have a true form, then you see things as fine. If you feel that it doesn't have its essential form, then if you think that it doesn't have its true form and it's going to disappear just like a bubble, well, you not have thoughts like, oh, you have lived your 40 years of life trying to feed that human being. Well, about 70-year-old grandfather came and told me, well, after leaving, I see that I've been fooled. And when I asked why, the person sighed and said, well, I've tried my best to feed my wife and my children, but they only come to see me on occasions like New Year. And when I call, they say, well, I'm your father. Then they say, oh, have you eaten? And when we say yes, then they say, then be well. And that's the end. they say that's the end. And so their child, and when he talks with the daughter-in-law, and 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 some of the and even though daughter-in-law is very stiff and say, what did my husband say? Well, your husband didn't say anything. Then they say, well, even I don't have much to say. And so the telephone conversation ends in about 10 seconds. That too, very rarely. And so there's also no occasion for them to have this phone call. But then you normally call a lot when they require money. When they need money, then they call and say, well, father, you look young, and also the wife, she's also very futile. Why? Nowadays, when I go home, well, I go to the town hall and I don't even know how to play chess, but I sit there pretending to be playing chess. And also, sometimes I starve and sometimes I eat free food given, and sometimes I buy the food that's bought from my friend. But when I go home, I need to have quite a few skills developed. When we go home, at the time when they were going to offices and they were bringing salary, they could also we could also have some have some respect. But nowadays, it's all the money is with the wife, so they don't. So they have nothing that they could do. And also they are not very good at cleaning, and they did not even go to kitchen, and all the things were done by wife before, but they also have back problem. So when wife wants something, they spend about 2 hours looking for things in the closet. It's the same with you. And then they complain that, I ask you to do a simple thing and you're not even able to do that. And so when they see their wife, their heart, it skips a beat. And so the person asks, is it okay if the person could come and live in the temples? Well, I said that's also a good idea. And so even when they want to get a meal, if they isn't that the money that I used to bring and I brought home, then the wife would answer, well, do you think the money that you brought before is still in your house, in this house? Is all given to your child? And also it's not there anymore. Then they have nothing to say. They cannot even sit and calculate. So. And also when they want pocket money, they also have to see how is the mood of the wife. And well, I asked, don't you have your own savings, or don't you ask some money from your wife? Well, the person said, well, sometimes I do with the well, when there are occasions that he needs to give money, like a funeral, then if the person pretends to be very sad and also fears for that person, then they can eat 2 meals. Well, it's very futile. It's about time for them to say goodbye or depart. Well, even the wooden table is also stuck by glue. So about time for them to say goodbye, then they start falling off. And so I told the person, I realized that when I was 19. if you realize that you don't want to study while you're practicing, then you have to rest a little. And after a rest, you also have to come back to your study or practicing. We have done this before. Likewise, a yoga practitioner yoga practitioner practices for an hour or about half the time in the night, or practice once a day or as much as they want. They have to sit and do their practice looking for the trueness. So if you study at the samatha state, then you realize that it's all void. And without discrimination, you realize that it is void. This is something that's been taught in Lankavatara Sutra. After that, if you want, then awaken from your samadhi and do not open your lotus situation. Think that although this doesn't have a strong true form, but it exists in this common world, or else how can it exist between the relation of the consequence and also the act? As Buddha said, well, it's just like even if there is no, if when you see a shade, the shade doesn't exist, but the form exists. If not, how can there be a relation between the act and or the karma and also the act? Just like, well, the dependent arising arises from the cause and also the effect. So, although the property itself is void, everything went through the transformation of the relations, and you feel that they do exist. Even Buddha said things arising in this world is ascension. It happens in this mundane world, but it doesn't have its form. So when you see it in the mundane world, this is as per the law, but this is also void. But sentient beings without much knowledge, they think that things exist in this world, and they have this kind of consciousness, and therefore we are going through our samsara for a long time. And in this regard, I'm going to try to make sentient beings understand. So I'm going to accumulate the virtue and also wisdom, and also the potential to accumulate the virtues and achieve omniscience. And after that, achieve the stage of omniscience for. After that, I will try to make other sentient beings to achieve the sense of the stage of omniscience, and they would also achieve the Dharma. You have to think in this way, and we also have our attachments because we do not have proper understanding. And I will also try my best to lead all the people to the level of voidness, and so save all other sentient beings from their agony. And I will also try to cultivate the sense of bodhisattva. Having this kind of thought and also the motivation and also your aspiration in this way is very important. Then let go of your lotus position slowly, and to the Buddha in front of you, have your respect, and also do offer and also recite your mantra. And well, look at the sutra of the Bodhisattva, the Samantabhadra. It's really good. It's really great. The Venerable Gwangdeok in Bulgang. Where there's a song. That song is about the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. With that, we'll achieve enlightenment. Well, I suddenly want to sing a song. Well, no.
갑자기 노래를 하고 싶네. 아니야. 갑자기 무슨 소리야? 가면 눈물 젖은 두방강을 흘 테니까 그치?
After that,
그런 다음 공성과 대비심의 정수를 갖다 지니고 보시 등의 그러니까 꼭 안에 보리심과 공성의 두 개가
if you only study voidness, then you'll become a nihilist. And if you only study the other, then you'll become is also not proper. So you have to study voidness and then practice vipassana. Then only things will fall to correct places.
이것을 우리가 잘 깊이 생각을 해야 돼요.
And after that, where are we?
그리고 이제 어디야?
We also have to try our best to. We also have to try our best to achieve the paramita, those 6 paramitas, and then offer the prayer. Even after the practice, your practice should continue. So we have done some other practice, right? When we go to meditation room, we go to many different places. We shouldn't do that. The first thing that we have to do when we go to the meditation room, it has to continue. Or else the study would not continue. Even after the meditation, for the good of all sentient beings, you have to think that you'll go somewhere to help the poor people, or since you have studied the teaching, you wish to convey the message to others, or build a meditation center for others and sit with them. You have to continue with your offering, even the teachings and offering of goods and all the things. And if that continues, then the practice would speed up. There will be a concentration. Then the speed of the agony disappearing would be very fast. But then if you don't do that, but if you're just sitting and continuing, or if you're just listening to it, then it will take great time. On top of that, you have to understand the two sides of the dependent arising and also the voidness, because dependent arising itself is voidness. On next Tuesday is our Lunar New Year. Do you want teaching the next day of the lunar calendar? You want to take rest? Okay, let's do that. Let's end today's teaching.